self-worth and their value in how they see themselves as a person is being undermined. And they're in unresourceful, difficult, challenging situations and not sure how to navigate out of that. And so one of the things that I do to ground that is to bring awareness to you have a choice. And that choice is, what are you spending your heartbeats on? Because they're your heartbeats. They're not anybody else's heartbeats. This is for you to decide what you want to do.
Welcome back to Relatable Wisdom, the podcast where everyday people share the quotes that have shaped their lives, inviting us all to reflect and grow together. Today we're joined by Zara Atwater, a remarkable relationship development coach whose journey of transformation took her on a 2-year adventure around Australia in a motorhome. With a focus on self-love and resilience, Zara inspires others to embrace their own personal growth and set new standards for their relationships. Let's dive into Zara's story and discover the wisdom that has guided her along the way. Okay. Tell me your name and
Sure.
what you do.
Okay, so my name is Zara, spelled with a silent T, not to just confuse everybody. And yeah, my business is all about helping people, particularly those with who struggle with an anxious attachment patterns in relationships. So they're the kind of individuals who find themselves feeling really insecure, overthinking interactions, and constantly seeking validation from their partners. So what I do is I guide them through a signature coaching program called my FLY program, FLY pathway, which is first love yourself, a FLY. And so the goal of that pathway is really to help people develop that self-worth, confidence, not just in relationships, but in all aspects of their life. So I work really closely with people to help them uncover emotional, unavailable partners, but also in the workplace dealing with imposter syndrome, self-doubt, and building team engagement.
Okay.
So
Well,
starting
thank
with
you
that
for
relationship with self first.
accepting my invitation to be a guest on the podcast. Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
pleasure,
What's your
Winston.
favorite
It's
quote?
really nice to be here. So my favorite quote is about what we're spending our heartbeats on, because I believe we've only got so many heartbeats in this lifetime. And so we have to choose wisely what we're spending them on, because those heartbeats are the greatest currency that we have. And so, yeah, I'm all about choosing wisely what you spend your heartbeats on. And I'm choosing now to be participating in this in this podcast with you and sharing my heartbeats, and that's an absolute pleasure. I'm
Why
really
the
looking
idea
forward
of
to having this
heartbeats? I
chat with you.
mean, we could have said time. We could have said what you spend your time on, what you spend your mental energy on, and all those variants. Why heartbeats?
It's a good question. I was impacted at the age of 8 years old
Sorry
when
to
my
hear that.
mother died. She was only 29 at the time. Yeah, it's okay. I'm not the first person that's happened to. I won't be the last. And I think that experience really impacted me, that life ends. And what creates life is our heartbeats. That's what sustains life. And so there's been a motivating factor throughout all of my life, not to kind of produce wealth or get on a career path, but to have experiences, to richly have experiences. And it's also been that motivator when I'm in difficult situations or things that are making my heart unhappy or robbing me of the joy of life. It's a moment for me to reflect and say, what am I choosing to spend my heartbeats on here? I have a choice in this moment, and I've got to choose wisely. And if it's not serving me, then I have to take responsibility to change that. And so that's why heartbeats, because we don't know when they're going to end. We don't know when they're going to stop. And so it's a really, for me anyway, it's a really important metaphor to live by, because it grounds me in the moment, keeps me present.
How did you say the quote again? Could you repeat the quote?
Sure. So choose wisely what you're spending your heartbeats on, because you only have so many.
Because you only have so many. I don't know if you've heard of the book called 4,000 Weeks, something like that, right? And
No.
I've not read the book.
Who's
Yes,
that?
the
What's that
interesting thing
about?
the book does is that when you say 4,000 weeks, what actually happens is you realize that it's like money. Because the 4,000 weeks, I don't know if it's 4,000 weeks, I can't remember, or 4,000 days, but is it weeks or days? I mean, 365 days make a year. So about, let's just say 400. 400 into 4,000, that would be, okay, 4,000 weeks. Yeah. Yeah. So
Okay. Okay. And
So
what's
wait,
the book?
I just want to
What's
be
it
sure
about?
about the book, so I don't end
4,000
up saying
weeks?
spreading misinformation. So 4,000 divided by 50, that would be well, what are my math skills? Okay, that would be 400 divided by 5. So 5 into 4, that's 80. So the whole idea is that, the life expectancy of an average individual is about 80 years, right? And so if you have 80 years to live, assuming that,
Okay.
there's no
Yes.
premature death, what happens is that you actually have 8,000, 4,000 weeks in to actually spend and live. And so what actually happens is that
In that
you
life.
then see how you spend it. So it's no longer, because usually we live life as though it's an infinite substance, it's an infinite resource. Like, but when you realize that you have 4,000 weeks, what happens is that you start marking it off, and it becomes clear that, wow, I've spent 1 week, 2 weeks. Wow, what am I going to use the remaining weeks to do? Right. So it becomes something that is, it's scarce resources that you have to like
Yes.
use wisely for things that matter, not just, blaze through and say, oh, yeah, I just wasted
Yes.
50 weeks doing what? I mean, I can't even remember. Yeah. So,
I love that.
yeah. So, I mean, we
That's
could
a
also do
great
that
that's
for
a great
heartbeats, but I know
motivator. I
that the
love
number
that.
will be higher because, I think it's about 72 heartbeats per, what's the number again for per minute or so? I can't remember the exact number.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm not very good with stats or numbers. That's not my
Yeah, yeah.
forte.
So
Just
in
kind of
that
blurs
instance, we
for
could
me.
actually, the peculiar thing about heartbeats is that heartbeat is, it kind of marks moments, right? It's small enough that it can mark moments, like very small micro moments. Unlike a week where it's a really big time, and the heartbeats you have, it's scarce. It's, I won't use the word scarce. I mean, it's what's the word? I don't want to say scarce, but I mean it's limited. Yeah, that's the word. It's not. It's yeah. Yeah. It's precious,
They're
and we should
precious.
spend.
They're
So
very
so
precious.
when you say we should
They're
choose
precious.
wisely what we spend our heartbeats on, right? What does that mean? Like, I mean, I'm alive.
So I think that when
Yeah.
I'm dealing with my clients in the coaching space, a lot of them are running this anxiety and this like people pleasing tendencies,
Yeah.
um, like I mentioned before, imposter syndrome, and they're finding themselves in situations which are unresourceful, and they're wanting to, be liked. They're trying to be their best, coming into situations and trying to do everything to people please. And what's happening is that their self-worth and their value in how they see themselves as a person is being undermined. And they're in unresourceful, difficult, challenging situations and not sure how to navigate out of that. And so, one of the things that I do to ground that is to bring awareness to you have a choice. And that choice is, what are you spending your heartbeats on? Because they're
Yeah.
your heartbeats. They're not anybody else's heartbeats. This is for you to decide what you want to do. So it's a really empowering metaphor for someone to be able to recognize that they have a choice, that they have the ability to take care of themselves and to self regulate their emotions. Potentially, let's say they're in a difficult situation in an unhappy relationship and they're wanting to do the right thing, maybe staying together because of the children or feeling that they can't leave due to finances. And it's a way of navigating within the environment and going, okay, what's within your control? What's within your control to make you happy, so that you're not necessarily relying on somebody else because of your heartbeats. That's what I'm trying to draw attention to. It's this ownership and this idea of taking responsibility for your life and your happiness. And so my clients find it a really grounding exercise because it really brings up awareness. Well, hold on, I'm in a job or a relationship that I'm really not happy in. Um, they're not going to be thanking me on my deathbed. So what am I spending my heartbeats on? Why don't I change the situation? How can I make this my greatest human potential in this lifetime? And so that's what I help my clients bring awareness to, using the currency of
Yeah. Yeah.
heartbeats, however which way you want to see that.
I'm really excited for you because, you just talking about what you do, you're just smiling and happy, and that's a good thing. I've not happened to work with
Yeah.
you. Like, this is the first time I'm even seeing you for the first, like, yeah, other than your name, that I've seen your name, but like this is the first time saying it. And so you just talking about, oh, I help my clients do this, and I'm like, the way you just glowing. If you're listening, you go check out the video on YouTube, and you see her, she's just smiling, and I'm like, yeah, yeah, okay, I like I like
That's
the
kind of
heartbeat
you.
concept, but then something I also love. It's a topic that I deeply care about is imposter syndrome. And so and the concept of heartbeat, how can we connect that
Sure.
to imposter syndrome? Because a lot of people have imposter syndrome. Have had it before, but I'm dealing with it. But
Sure. So imposter syndrome's really interesting that what not a lot of people know about imposter syndrome, and I give a workshop on this particular topic, but when you're running imposter syndrome, you don't actually run imposter syndrome about something that you can't do. So what I mean by that is, let's say, someone has said to you, okay, Winston, I want you to fly to the moon, right? And there's no possible way that you're going to be able to fly to the moon, right? So you're not actually going to run imposter syndrome about that. It's not even on your radar of possibility. So there's no way I'm going to run imposter syndrome. I know that I can't do that. But if it's something that's within my realm of possibility, let's say running a podcast, and you know that that's something that you can do, that is more likely for you to be running imposter syndrome about. So the thing to catch here is that you will only run imposter syndrome about something you can actually do. And there's the kind of quandary, right? There's the kind of, what do they call it? I've forgotten the word. It's the quandary of imposter syndrome. And so there's various things that need to be in place for the imposter syndrome to kick in. And one of them is comparison, comparing yourself to somebody else. But the key is really to bring awareness to the fact that this is within your skills base, and all you're doing is telling yourself a narrative that I can't do this, or I'm not good enough in some way. And that idea of I'm not good enough is due to comparing yourself. So you're seeing somebody else. Maybe, in this podcast situation, you might be
Joe
comparing yourself to, I don't know, whoever your mentors are, whoever your mentors are, and believing that you should be at that level. And because you're not at that level, then you're somehow not good enough. And it's just a story that we're telling ourselves. So, nobody's got a gun to your head and saying, you've got to think like this, you're not good enough. You're doing it to self. So it's an inside job. It's what I call an inside job, something that we're doing and narrating for ourselves. And the amazing thing about that is when we can bring awareness to the fact that it's something we are doing, we can stop it, because with that awareness, we then have a choice. So exactly what I'm talking about with our heartbeats, when you bring awareness to it, it arms you with a choice, and you can make a decision in that moment. Now, we touched on a little bit about confidence, which is where my expertise is, all in confidence. And I'd love to be able to share some confidence ebooks with
please
your
do.
listeners,
Like,
if
you
you're
want to
open
help
to
my
that.
listeners? You're like, if
I've
I'm
got a
open
couple of
to that, that's why we're here. It's confidence. The podcast is a self-improvement podcast, and your stuff is confidence. Like those things are like one of the major things about self-improvement is confidence. Please do.
beautiful. So I put together a couple of ebooks for podcast listeners. It's a confidence bundle. One of the ebooks has got 3 confidence hacks that you can do right now that actually work, like not woo-woo, not kind of airy-fairy talk, but really confidence hacks that you can apply and implement straight away. And I'm
Where can
more
they
than
get the
happy
book
to share this with your
if they
listeners.
wanted
They
to
can
like
download
grab
that
the book
book.
immediately?
And so
Yeah.
I'll
I
share
know
the link. Should I share the
okay,
link
the
with you
link
in
is
the
not
chat? Are
a
you able to
what's
put
the
that?
word? It's not a callable link. Is it a link? It's not a link that you can easily say, oh,
It's not a
okay,
what
okay.
link?
Okay, I'll put the link in the show notes. Yeah.
So in the show notes, and then your listeners can download that. And so there's 2 ebooks. So there's one that's got the 3 confidence hacks that you can do immediately, the guarantee to work, I promise you. And then there's another kind of 20-day practices to do that are a little bit fun, a little bit kind of nudging you along the way, and
Yeah.
letting you know, you've got your own cheerleader supporting you. And if you're interested taking that further,
Yeah,
there's
of course.
some contact details in the ebook that you can reach out to me and
Yeah,
get your own personal
I want to
cheerleader to
ask you now
support
that
you.
you're a confidence coach, but I see a lot of persons they talk about confidence, and for some reason, you know how you don't know anything about the topic, yet you just know that somebody's just saying nonsense, right? And so, so you are the confidence coach, right? What are some of the
Right.
lies people spread about confidence that they open their mouth on social media and they start talking and say, "Oh, this is the yeah," and I'm like, and you see it and you're like, you growl in your belly and you're like, oh,
Well, thankfully, that hasn't happened for me recently, but I do know a
okay.
common misconception more than a lie. I think this is a common misconception that when we talk about self-confidence and self-esteem, they tend to get mixed up. And so that is potentially what you're talking to. I don't know. But let's say for self-esteem, right? It gets misunderstood because at school, most of us were told, you've got to get straight A's, you've got to get good results at school if you want to make it in the world. And a child going through that experience and having parents tell them, you've got to get an A plus, they might have the experience of coming home and getting an A plus and getting showered with all sorts of love and affection. So they make that association that, when I get an A plus, I get love. But when I get a C or a B minus, my parents aren't so happy. They're not kind of showering me with that same kind of love. So we learn to associate our
Mm.
worth based on what we do.
Ooh.
And that's the misconception. That's the mistake, because our worth is intrinsic, right? Our worth, you are a human being that you don't have to prove anything. Your worth is intrinsic just for the sake that you are a human being. But when we confuse self-confidence with self-esteem, that's when we're on a roller coaster ride to emotional, all sorts of crazy roller coaster ride of, I see you're getting your pen out. What are you going to say
Yeah.
next?
Mm. As I'm just writing is because I know that I need to do a future episode with you that will be 1 hour, about maybe 1 hour, 30 minutes long,
Okay.
deep, and it will not be on on this podcast, of course.
Okay.
It will be for podcasters, right? Because I feel that a lot of people, right, they struggle. They don't have podcasting
Okay.
problem. They have confidence problem. They have self-esteem problem. So it's a mind problem. Not even
Sure.
that has nothing to do with the podcast. And at the end of the day, it affects your work like every other thing, right? Yeah. So I'd love for you, and this is me just pitching out there and
100%.
telling you, I'd love for you to like, I'll reach out to you because right now I'm trying to like write my exams and everything.
Sure.
But once that is done and out of the way, I'll open my availability and I'll send you an email. We can book a time, and I would love for you to come with your slides and everything because it will be a masterclass. I'll just be sitting down sipping, I don't know, maybe water or milk, I don't know, any of those things, and just taking down notes. So yeah.
Okay. Sure. Well, I run all sorts of workshops. I'm doing one in next
Ooh.
week on how to have difficult conversations. So teaching people how to speak up. There's a lot of times when we remain silent, that inner critic telling us that we're not good enough to speak up, and there's all sorts of reasons why people have to have those difficult conversations and how to navigate them rather than put off and avoiding them. And so
Wow.
yeah, I've got a
That's
whole workshop that I'm
like
running next
that's
week
like
about
right
that.
now I am just sitting down and I'm asking myself, how can I allow you to shine in what you know how to do best? Yeah, yeah. Yeah. And of course
Ah,
I'll
so
come with my
kind of.
questions because I would have a lot of questions to ask regarding confidence, imposter syndrome, self. We'll pick a topic. It should be easy for us to figure out logic. That won't be a problem. The ball is in my court. It's just for me to say, yeah, this is the link, book a time and we can talk. Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Zara.
Awesome. Awesome. All
Okay.
right.
Back to
Sure.
the thing you explained. I was asking, and then you were talking about the misconception that most people did. They confuse self confidence for self esteem.
Yes. And so let's imagine that you've got like a circle, an inner circle, and you're in that inner circle. And then the outside of that circle, you've got your career, your job, maybe your family or your work, money. And then on the outside of that circle, you might have, your culture, your country, maybe some sports teams that you're part of. These are kind of aspects of you, aspects of things that make up things that you like, that you dislike, but they're on the outside of that. Now, these things over time are going to change, right? The money that you have in your bank account might not be the money that you had 10 years ago. The house that you're living in is going to change. Maybe over 10, 20 years, you're going to move. These things are inconsistent, right? So they're changing all the time. What's not is you in the middle. Now, your beliefs change and your growth and your development might change, but you're going to be consistent. And that's what I'm talking to when I mention self-esteem. Your worth is intrinsic, irrespective of what's happening around you. But when you place your value in your work and your career, or how other people see you, you're going to be on an emotional roller coaster being dictated to by the environment. And the only people that do that are children, because they don't have any control. And so what you're allowing is that child in you to still express as an adult, getting confused with confidence, self-confidence and self-esteem. And so it's about recognizing your intrinsic worth, being able to make more informed decisions at how you show up in the world.
Yeah, it's
That's
a good thing you
exactly what I help
mentioned
my
that
clients
most
with.
persons are connected to your work. That if you remove, let's say, the business, right, for some reason they're sacked, right, they're fired. Guess what happens? Their self-esteem goes down because now there's no work to connect. They're no longer the CEO or the general manager.
Yes. Well, I would argue that, just confidently suggest that the reason you've gotten upset is because you've made an identification with your worth being connected to your job, rather than I have worth. I am an intrinsic human being with worth. I am, made of the stars. And if you're, religiously minded, we're children of God. We are, have intrinsic value, not based on what job I have or
Thank you
how
so
much
much.
money I have.
We would definitely have to continue this conversation on a later date. What do you do, and where can people learn more about you and what you do? What do you do, and where can people learn more about you and what you do?
Yes, so I'm a confidence coach, and my website is myconfidencecoach.com.au, because I'm in Australia. So all one word, myconfidencecoach.com.au. But if your listeners are interested in taking this conversation further and they download the Confidence Bundle books, there's ways of reaching out and connecting with me there. And I've got links on my website for all the workshops that I've got running and coming up. And so I'd love to see you and participating in some of my workshops. And if it's not for you, letting other people know, because I'm all about the word of mouth
in your life. I mean, yeah. Thank you so much, Zara.
Yes, exactly. It's
for
been
being
a
an amazing
pleasure.
guest.
Thank you for sharing your heartbeats with me.
I'm glad that our paths crossed. Thanks for listening to Relatable Wisdom. If you found something meaningful in this episode, make sure to follow or subscribe wherever you're listening. If you'd like to support the show, you can do that by buying me a coffee. The link is in the show notes. Every little bit keeps the conversations going. I'm your host, Wisdom Okonkwo, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep growing.